Well, good afternoon, or should I say good evening, and thank you for staying on for the last session. It's always should you say a good honour, a great honour to do the last session, but also you know that everyone's wishing that they could go to the bar or that they could finish up from the day, and I really appreciate that. Today I wanted to share with you a project that I've been doing with my students at Auckland University of Technology, and this project looks at RFID from a very positive light in that it's something that has been developed many years ago and which is infiltrating coming into our world. And it's better you know, I think. It's better that you know what RFID will do rather than not know. So this is the project that we developed. We found in our work with postgraduate students that RFID tags and the concept of tags and what they can do is very confusing. We've found that students struggle really understanding the existing classification schema that there is, and also business people struggle with the existing RFID classification. And this is computer science students at the postgraduate level, and this is also business people who work for large New Zealand companies, like, let's say, Fonterra, the largest milk company in New Zealand, and New Zealand is well known for milk. Progressive, which is the large grocery company in New Zealand, also struggle with understanding what tags can do, and they're not helped by YouTube videos. If you go onto YouTube and look at RFID, it's very confusing to work out what technology is being used exactly, and what kind of technology is this, and what actually could I use it for my business. So the purpose of this project, which has been going on for about a year and a half, is to propose a schema to share our experience, and then to let you know how we're going with this. I moved into my apartment last night. It's a lovely apartment on the university campus. Thank you, Wollongong. It's wonderful. And I was watching the ABC because I miss ABC because I'm from New Zealand, and in New Zealand we don't have ABC, but I'm Australian born, so it's kind of what I miss a lot. SBS and ABC TV, and it had a documentary about actually a sci-fi writer, and it said, he quotes, and I didn't jot down his name unfortunately, but it's man's greatest fear is actually a fear of the unknown, and I think we have a great opportunity here in being an expert in RFID to educate people about RFID and to make something positive out of RFID, and so that's kind of my purpose here. There's 2 points and 2 main motivations. One is the Pathfinder organisation, which I'm a part of, and the other is a presentation that I did last year to a group which is not unlike yourselves, really. So first, New Zealand RFID Pathfinder. I'm a national committee member of 9. There are RFID vendors, there are industry representatives like Progressive, which is grocery, IBM, Fonterra, which is milk, and Genai, which is a telecommunications company, not like Alcatel. I think you know what Alcatel is, don't you? Like Alcatel, or like Telecom. Auckland University of Technology is the only university to be a member of this. So I'm either outnumbered or very privileged. I haven't worked out which yet. And GS1 New Zealand, which is part of EPC Global, which is the standards body. It's a membership of about 120 people, and basically the mission of this body is to educate people about RFID, and mainly through After Fives networking, training, webinars, and white papers. The other part of my motivation for this paper really was about myth busting, and I got invited last year to a presentation which was kind of an evening where people presented interesting stories about RFID tagging, about marketing and things, and it scared me really that there was a lot of myths out there about RFID. Now, any engineer will tell you that RFID is still very much a black art. There are people at my university who do studies about the signals of RFID, which is not actually general. It's shaped in an ellipse, actually goes round the antennas. It doesn't actually go out. And as you saw with the previous presentation in wireless technology, RFID is just the same. It has black spots, things in the environment absorb it. It's very interesting to work in, but it's also quite difficult to understand. So it's really about making something which is quite difficult to understand easier to understand. Okay, so in industry, how do people in business who are thinking about implementing an RFID system, how do they like to learn about RFID tags? I know from my colleagues who work in the Pathfinder group that actually vendors keep a portfolio of physical examples of RFID tags, and they're not organised by frequency. They're organised by form factor, which is to say they'll have, an example of an implanted one, an example of a label, an example of a key fob, an example of something you can tag on metal, all these different form factors that exist. Users like to compare between different vendors, so there's lots of different manufacturers and they're marketed differently, so it's very difficult sometimes to work below the marketing speak of what one organisation says that particular type of tag will do. We have an RFID lab. We have all manner of spectrums, low frequency up to high frequency, passive and active, and we often procure the technology and are quite amazed at the difference between what the marketing people say that the technology will do and what we can actually get in terms of performance in the lab that the students are working with. So that is a huge problem, and I think that businesses find it really difficult to understand the jargon that is around technology. The frequencies, different standards that generation 1, generation 2, generation 3. It's really quite hard for them to understand, so they don't actually care about that. And all they're looking at in these portfolios, the vendors physically have often like a briefcase or just like something that will flip out with the tags attached. And all they want to really do is, I'd like to implement this kind of tag. That's all they really want to know. They want to know functionality. So could they tag on metal, for example? That's quite an important aspect of the technology. Or is it meant to be an ID tag? Or is it meant to go onto a product? Those are the kind of things that we were looking at. So we formulated a research question, which was essentially, how can standards develop development organisations? This is like, Pathfinder, like EPC Global. How can they reduce the complexity of the organisation of RFID tags so that people can understand it, and so that people can embrace it and understand what it does, educate themselves and actually learn about what it is that's true about this and what it is that's just a myth about this. So we came up with this idea of, I call it a pictorial glossary. In fact, my colleague Grant Pugh from Tracient Technologies, who is kind of a co-owner of this, he doesn't talk about it like that. He had this wonderful idea that, because we're a university, that we'd have great thinkers and we could somehow have like a picture of a tag which could morph, depending on what the user wanted from it, and you could somehow like tweak little buttons that would change it to be something. He had a much more cyber sort of thinking, whereas I'm working with postgraduate students mostly in their 4th year. They're familiar with Google, they're familiar with TradeMe, which is like eBay for you. So I am limited with what the tools will do and what the students have in their head, what they perceive as being real. Originally, Grant had the first prototype of this, I think I've got these in the slide somewhere, as being an album. He just collected all the photos and he wanted to put it online so that he could kind of give people an idea of what the sort of range of this type of tag could be. So if people were curious about tags and they saw it somewhere in their environment, they could kind of look at the picture and say, okay, this is kind of similar. What kind of capacity could I have for this tag? So he just had it in a Picasso, which is an album software. I think is it Mac? I don't know. He had it in that. He asked us to develop a prototype, and that's what we worked on. So for for sort of 18 months, I've had a number of different groups of students work on this with me. The students researched existing classifications. So they looked at vendors, big internet vendors like Daily RFID, which is product driven, and RFID Shop, which You basically search by one technological factor at a time, so you can order the results according to, say, frequency of the tag, and then you can do a new search and you can look at functionality. But what we were looking for was more of a, you can limit your search to less distance instead, like more user-friendly. So you could say, okay, I want a tag that can be read from 10 centimetres away, and I want it to be in a factor of a key fob, for example, which is, kind of what users are interested in. There's a number of papers which you can see in the references of the paper that we've submitted, which look at application classifications, and we did talk to Pathfinder about this, and because it's mainly vendors and people thinking about, not what exists. You can take a tour of what exists, but what might be developed in the future. And so application classifications didn't work for them because that's a picture of the past. That's how RFID tags were used in the past. This research is for people to work out how they're going to use tags in the future. And the point is that we believe that RFID tags will be used for many different things in the future, not what they've been used primarily in the past, which is access control and security. We think that encryption technologies will open the door for larger computational processing for RFID tags. Okay, so what did we do? We set up basically a search criteria and that looks for the future, that allows people to look at innovative applications. And first off, we thought it was quite a static idea, so you can see at the top, can I have my pointer? Oh yes, yay. That's the homepage, just represents the homepage. And then we decided there was 3 main classifications, working on the idea that people can't remember, there is a famous philosopher, I can't remember now, but people can't remember more than 7 things, and general people can't remember more than 3 things. So Pathfinder kind of said to us, well, 3 things. So we said, okay, people are either looking for basic tags, some sort of higher functionality, or some sort of active tag, which includes your Wi-Fi functionalities. And then we looked at, what were the main frequencies, and then basically what is the result of this is pictures of tags which meet those criteria. So as you can see, our first go at this was very, networked and everything related to everything. Our second go was much more structured in that we found that people look for these main characteristics down the, what's that for you, the right-hand side, the frequency, standards, price. These are all things that people look in basic. Over the other side, the higher and active tags, people were looking for different functionality. Now, this is a work in progress. This is a paper in progress, the kind of thing that you share at a conference to then go on and write something bigger and better. We don't know what the answer to this is. And in fact, I don't think that, where we are at the moment is anywhere near where we'd like to be. But it certainly is better than the picture that we started with and better than the Picasso album. So, we've made a lot of progress. We have we've explored quite a lot about how to photograph our own tags because it wasn't ethical for us to take photos from all of the vendors, that copyright issues. So we photographed all the tags that people owned and put them into our own database. We know all about how to make the schema in XML. We also have developed an ASP.NET application, which we hosted temporarily during this summer actually, and asked the committee members to give us some anecdotal feedback to see how we were going. So we know all those things. What we don't know, well, actually we do know that categorization of the tags is very difficult, and this thing I struggle with is getting, I have a new student coming every 6 months or every 12 months, and although RFID is kind of leaching in or is kind of in our environment, we have access tags. Very few people know, what classification. So every time I kind of use the glossary to educate my students about, okay, starting from the beginning about RFID. So the problem is being able to categorize these tags effectively, and for a student to be able to look at a tag, it's very confusing to say, okay, this is a low frequency tag, this tag's range will be 5 centimeters, or this tag's range will be 1 meter. So, we need to work on evaluating more our outcome, and also we need to work on hosting. yeah, in conclusion, I'd have to say that this is an interesting thing. I'd be very interested to hear from anyone who's done anything similar, who has any insights into how a project like this could bust some of the myths around RFID. And if, you know, I mean, I'm in abundance, I'm in sharing. I don't think that by, you know, not sharing anything and finally writing a paper I'm going to learn anything. I would like to share with as many people as possible, you know, what we think. And I think by kind of working together to kind of learn more and educate ourselves more about tags, you know, we can help society to develop the technology in a way that suits us and is beneficial for us in a really positive way. So with that, I'd like to conclude my talk and let you go off to drinks.
So the question was, in the categorisation schema, what is in it? You say
what I picked up what I was saying is that you'd have photographs of the different types of tags.
Yes.
Would you also have like a descriptor that said, this is how it's been employed, this is the advantages and disadvantages of a particular tag, so that information is available as well?
Yeah. There's a mouse over, so you can look at the photo in the thumbnail. You can also see the photo in large. And when you mouse over the picture of the tag, it shows you the characteristics of the tag, but in layman's terms. So it doesn't say this is a Gen 2, HF, UHF, blah blah, which is what you see on the technical sites. It says, it says cost of the tag, which is just low, medium, high. It says read range, which is essentially the 5 centimeters or 1 meter. So it says those sort of, generic things that business people could be looking for. Yeah. And then RFID Pathfinder are quite key for it to have a link to the vendor. So once people have decided what tag, they really want to work with, they're interested in having, a link on to someone that they can talk to that can then, say that they've seen that tag. So some way of being able to say, to them, this is the tag I've been looking for, kind of like when you decide, you want a colour, when you're painting something in your house, kind of like when you decide what tag you want, you can then go to the vendor, because what they had was that people go to the vendor trying to get educated about tags, and that's like tire kicking, I don't know what you call it, but people going and trying to take up vendors' time, saying, what about, and what do you think about this? So it's about letting people have enough information in order to be able to educate themselves, and then coming to the vendor in a much more kind of informed state. Yeah. Exactly.
Any other questions? Do you plan on benchmarking the tags, or is there, where do you get the information that populates the?
Yeah. You mean in terms of how we classify whether it's long or short range?
Well, yeah, not so much about the cost of the colour, but more about how it works, whether it works. With the actual technology itself, you can benchmark it, or is it where you compare?
I think other companies do benchmarking very well. We're just a university research lab. We don't do benchmarking really.
So you're more after a formal concept analysis to be able to search through the database, sort of in reverse. People don't really know what they want.
Yeah.
They can come in and say, I need this feature, it needs to be within 5 centimetres.
Yeah.
So then we'll bring up those ones.
Yeah.
You can roll through it that way.
Yeah. And it's visual. And it's not owned by inventors because it's owned by a university. It's not owned by.
When you say it's visual, it's just based on an image.
It's an image, and then when you mouse over, you can also see just basically 5 categories, which you can read in the paper. I think they're basically cost, read range, and a few other things. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.